No tutorial, no mission briefing, no here's how to play. This game just starts and expects you to already know exactly what you are doing. Welcome to the PlayStation Marathon, the series where I'm playing every single PS1 game ever released in alphabetical order, looking for hidden gems and the strange stories hiding behind them. 9 episodes in and we've officially broken free from the 0 to 9 section. Today marks our very first game under the letter A, and fittingly, it's also the first game in this entire challenge that doesn't have an ending. No final boss or credits, not even a you win screen unless you count going bankrupt as a lost condition. Today's game is A-Train, developed in Japan by Artdink and published in North America by Maxis. Yes, the same Maxis behind SimCity and the same Maxis that will go on to make the Sims and Sport after EA absorbed the company the following year. More on that later. Now at first glance, a title like A-Train makes you think you are looking at a basic railway management game. It's not. This is a full city building simulator with a living, breathing financial economy built on top. You are laying tracks, sure, but you are also buying up real estate, building office towers and hotels and factories, playing the stock market and taking out bank loans. This is a bustling city squeezed into a PlayStation. Knowing this was a completely different beast than anything I've come across on the channel so far, I actually did my homework and read the manual before playing. That decision saved me and then immediately broke me. This game's manual is massive, 48 pages, covering everything from basic track laying to road paving, stock trading, real estate purchase, bank loan terms and tax law. I nearly gave myself a headache trying to absorb all of it in one sitting. And the taxes in this game are absurd. 50% of your net profits, 5% of your total assets, and if you don't turn a profit that year, you are charged a flat $1 million anyway, which, cool, love that for me, especially when my businesses are actively failing. The manual itself doesn't even pretend this is reasonable. There is a line in there that says it better than I ever could. There is a detestable enemy in this game that shows up every single year, and its printable name is taxes. So I went through the manual, thought I had the gist, and booted up the game. I chose my preferred control setup, selected my language, and without a single word of instruction, was dropped straight onto the map. The city was already running, the simulation kept moving whether I knew what I was doing or not. My first run was a total disaster. I stood no chance. I was completely overwhelmed and confused. Then I realized that I quite literally skimmed past the instructions on how to actually play the game. I ended up turning the game off, sleeping on it, and reading the entire manual again the next morning, slowly, section by section this time. Even on my second attempt, with all that knowledge in my head, I still found myself staring blankly at the screen. And this was the moment I realized something crucial. A-Train is the first game in this marathon that actively fights against how I play. Here is the thing, with over 4,000 games to get through, I try to move fast and get to the point on each one. That works fine for games built around levels with a clear finish line. Even a sandbox game like Minecraft has an end if you want one, which is beating the Ender Dragon. A-Train doesn't give you any of that. It wants you to slow down. This is a game designed to be played across months, maybe even years, as you slowly carve out a massive financial empire. Trying to squeeze a slow burn simulation into a 2-day recording window meant I never got to fully sink into its world the way it deserves. That's the tax of running a challenge like this. Once you adjust to its wavelength though, the loop is quite impressive. You are simultaneously role-playing as a railway CEO, a landlord, a mayor, and a stock trader, and the game hands you the tools for all of it at once. Control-wise, this is the first game in the marathon that supports mouse input. Yes, the original PlayStation had an official mouse peripheral, just like the SNES did for Mario Paint. Tracking one down today isn't cheap, but emulators make it a non-issue. I tried playing with the mouse, but it felt oddly disorienting to me, and since some functions aren't even available on a 2-button mouse, I ended up sticking with the controller for the whole playthrough. The actual money making is quite complex, with your income flowing in from all directions, like ticket sales from trains and buses, income from any subsidiary businesses you build, profits from stock trading, and bank loans to cover you when cash gets tight. Basically, this game is your chance to cosplay as Jeff Bezos, and it never really stops. There is no ending, as I've said. You just keep balancing your books until you either go bankrupt or, apparently, you lose your save file, which is a real risk because according to the manual, a single word of loop save can eat all 15 available blocks on a PS1 memory card, and those things weren't exactly cheap when this game launched. An official Sony memory card could set you back around $20 US. Beyond the gameplay, there are two bizarre pieces of history hiding behind this game. First, the name. A-Train isn't just a generic train pun, it's a direct reference to Duke Ellington's 1939 jazz standard, Take the A-Train. The Japanese title translates literally to that. This whole city building, tax dreading, stock trading simulator is named after a big band jazz tune about a New York subway line. Second, this isn't actually A-Train 1. In Japan, this title was released as A-Train 4, the fourth mainline entry in a franchise Artdink had been running since 1985. When Maxis brought it over to the West, they stripped the number off the front, making a decade-old series look like a brand new debut for American audiences. Speaking of Maxis, there is another familiar face hiding in the credits. Remember last episode when EA got dragged to court over the football game? Turns out EA shows up in this episode too, just a year ahead of schedule. When Maxis published A-Train on the PS1 in June of 1996, they were still their own independent company, but by July of 1997, barely 13 months later, Electronic Arts bought Maxis outright for $125 million. Every game people associate with Maxis today, like The Sims, Spore, and the later SimCity games, all came after that buyout, with A-Train sitting right at the end of Maxis' independent era. There's an extra layer of irony here too. Maxis is remembered today as the titan of simulation games, but their first ever published title that wasn't made in-house was an earlier A-Train game back in 1992, and by most accounts it was a commercial flop. The genre Maxis would eventually define with SimCity is the same genre where they stumbled first. Visually, this game holds up about as well as you'd expect for its era. Nothing flashy, but functional and clear, with a working day-night cycle and seasonal weather on top. My one real complaint is that the map felt cramped, split into multiple smaller zones instead of one seamless world, but considering this game is run on a console with less RAM than a modern graphic calculator, I can't really complain. Audio-wise, no complaints from me. The ambient tracks are pleasant and you can freely change the currently playing music in the settings menu whenever a track gets repetitive. Critically, this game did fine for itself at the time. IGN gave it an 8 out of 10, GameSpot landed at 7.5. That tracks with my experience. Once the learning curve breaks, there's an insanely deep well-built simulation under all that opening confusion. So, should you play A-Train in 2026? Yes, if you've got the patience and the time to actually let a city grow the way this game wants it to. Just get your save file like your life depends on it. If you'd rather have better graphics, a bigger seamless map and more modern physics, the newer city builders will absolutely give you that. What this one offers instead is a strange retro breath of fresh air, one that happens to be completely free to play today if you know where to look. 9 episodes in, and this is easily the most patience testing game the marathon has shown at me so far. Not because it's bad or anything, it just does not care how much time I have or what my schedule is. And that is A-Train, a really odd, unexpected deep way to kick off the letter A in this marathon. Next episode, we are jumping into Ace Combat 2, the sequel to Namco's Air Combat, which is an interesting one because thanks to a Western naming quirk, the first game in this series was actually retitled Air Combat for its PS1 release, while its sequel reverted back to the franchise's original name, Ace Combat, which means alphabetically this marathon is going to play Ace Combat 2 and probably Ace Combat 3 after it, before it ever reaches the game that started the whole series. We are doing this completely backwards and there's nothing I can do about it. If you missed the last episode, make sure to check out my deep dive into 2002 FIFA World Cup, a video that started as a sports game review and somehow turned into a legal horror story. That's all for today guys. If you liked the video, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss a single episode of this amazingly long journey. Thanks for watching, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next week.